In August 2005, employees at the Banco Central in Fortaleza, Brazil, walked in for a routine Monday morning. They unlocked the doors, went past security, and headed for the central vault. But when they opened it, they were not met with stacks of money. Instead, they found a gaping hole in the floor and an impossible silence. From that hole, nearly $70 million had simply vanished. The cash, weighing a staggering 3.5 tons, was gone. There were no tripped alarms, no signs of a break-in, and 0 witnesses. A crew of thieves had spent 3 months digging a 256-foot tunnel, complete with electricity and air conditioning, right under the city's nose. This is the story of how they pulled off one of the most audacious heists in history, and how that perfect crime unraveled into a trail of kidnappings, murder, and a fortune that is still missing. 3 months before the heist, a new company rented a house just a block away from the bank. It was called Grama Sintetica. To the outside world, it looked like a legitimate, if uninspired, landscaping business. The building got a fresh coat of green paint. A white van with the company logo was parked outside, and neighbors even got flyers offering lawn services. They saw a crew of about 6 to 10 men coming and going, and a van regularly hauling away loads of dirt. Nobody suspected a thing. They just assumed it was routine work. This brilliant bit of social engineering was the work of a sophisticated criminal organization. While police would eventually arrest more than 100 people, 2 men are often seen as the core architects. The first was Antonio Josevan Alves dos Santos, known as Alamayo. He was the recruiter, the man on the ground who put the team together. But the suspected mastermind, the ghost of the operation, was Luis Fernando Ribeiro. Ribeiro allegedly brought the crucial inside knowledge, the understanding of vault layouts and security protocols needed to make the plan work. Together, they assembled a specialized crew of nearly 24 men, including not just diggers, but engineers and logistics experts. Their cover was perfect. Their team was ready. Now, the real work could begin. While the city of Fortaleza bustled above, an incredible feat of criminal engineering was taking shape 13 feet below ground. For 3 solid months, the crew worked in relentless shifts to carve a path to the money. And this was not some crude burrow. It was a masterpiece of illicit construction. The tunnel stretched for 256 feet, navigating a precise path straight toward the bank. The crew's engineers used maps and compasses to plot a course that had to weave around water pipes and sewer lines to avoid triggering any citywide alarms. It was slow, grueling work. The men worked in small teams on 4-hour shifts, crawling through a claustrophobic space barely wide enough for a single person. One man would dig at the face of the tunnel, while another loaded the dirt into buckets. Those buckets were then passed back through the passage to the house, where they were loaded into the van and discreetly hauled away. The tunnel itself was a marvel. To stop it from caving in, the walls were lined with plastic and reinforced with wood beams. It had a makeshift but effective air conditioning system, providing ventilation in the suffocating heat. And it was fully lit with electricity, allowing the crew to work around the clock. It was a secret, underground highway built for one purpose: to bypass every single security measure the bank had. The guards, the cameras, the locks, all of it was now completely irrelevant. The thieves were not breaking in. They were coming up from below. The final stage was set for the weekend of August 6th, 2005. With the bank closed and the streets quiet, the crew made their move. But the biggest challenge was still ahead: the vault floor. It was a formidable barrier, over 3.5 feet of solid, steel-reinforced concrete. Using industrial drills, saws, and pickaxes, the team began the final breakthrough: This was the moment of maximum risk. The vault had motion sensors and cameras. Any excessive noise or vibration could bring the whole thing crashing down. But the thieves had done their homework. They knew the sensors were designed to detect movement within the vault, not vibrations from beneath it. And the cameras? As it turned out, they only filmed. They did not record. The gang had found the fatal blind spot. With methodical precision, they cut a hole through the thick concrete. No alarms, no alerts. They were in. What they found was the score of a lifetime. Containers filled with used 50 real banknotes. These were old bills that had been taken out of circulation to be examined, making them largely untraceable. The total haul was around 160 million Brazilian reais, worth nearly $70 million at the time. Over the weekend, the crew systematically moved 3.5 tons of cash out of the vault, using a pulley system to hoist the money through the tunnel and into their vans. There was no panic, no rush, just cool, calm composure. When they finally vanished, the only traces they left behind were a few empty energy drink cans and juice cartons scattered on the vault floor. On Monday morning, August 8th, that illusion of security was shattered. When bank employees found the hole in the floor and the empty shelves, chaos erupted. Federal police swarmed the scene, kicking off one of the largest manhunts in Brazilian history. Investigators crawled through the tunnel, emerging in the now abandoned fake landscaping business. They found the tools, the leftover dirt, and the flyers for a company that never existed. The sheer audacity of the crime was stunning. One police official told reporters that digging a tunnel like this is something you would expect to see in the cinema. But the thieves had a 44-hour head start. By the time the crime was discovered, the crew had scattered across the country. The investigation was, at first, a frustrating search for ghosts. However, even the most perfect crime can be unraveled by simple human error. The first big break came when one of the gang members, unable to resist his new wealth, bought 11 brand new cars at once, paying for all of them in cash. This kind of spending spree immediately raised red flags. Police intercepted a truck transporting the cars and made their first arrests, recovering millions of dollars hidden inside the vehicles. This cracked the case wide open. Using phone intercepts and financial tracking, police slowly began to piece together the vast network behind the heist. Over the next 5 years, the investigation would lead to more than 100 arrests. The masterminds may have successfully stolen a fortune, but keeping it proved to be a far more dangerous game. The aftermath of the robbery descended into a brutal cycle of greed, betrayal, and violence. Many of the gang members, now flush with cash, became instant targets for other criminals. The most prominent victim was one of the plan's alleged architects, Luis Fernando Ribeiro. In October 2005, just 2 months after the heist, he was kidnapped. His family paid a ransom of nearly $1 million, but his body was later found on an isolated road. He had been shot and killed. The perfect crime had ended in a bloody death. He was not the only one. At least 6 other kidnappings were linked to the stolen money, as gang members and their families were extorted for their share of the loot. Several other participants were murdered, often by their own associates, in arguments over the cash. The same criminal underworld that helped execute the heist now turned on its own. Even the lead recruiter, Alamao, lived in constant fear of being kidnapped before his arrest in 2008. When police finally cornered him, he reportedly expressed relief, glad that it was the authorities and not another crew who had found him first. The story of the Fortaleza bank heist is a masterpiece of criminal ingenuity, but it's also a brutal cautionary tale. Of the nearly $70 million stolen, only about $8 million was ever officially recovered. The vast majority of the money, well over $50 million, simply vanished, laundered into businesses, real estate, or the pockets of other criminals. The tunnel was filled in long ago, but the legacy of the crime endures. It forced Brazil to completely overhaul its bank security, and it remains a case study in criminal audacity. Some of the men involved were sentenced to decades in prison, while others were killed before they could ever face justice. A few were never captured at all and simply disappeared. It's been called one of the world's greatest bank robberies, a crime so perfectly planned it was almost art. But as the trail of bodies and shattered lives shows, the price of that perfection was devastatingly high. It leaves one lingering question that hangs over the unrecovered millions of dollars. Was the perfect crime actually worth it?